Coach Eugene Chung, former Virginia Tech offensive lineman, is joining the stream. How you doing, Coach Chung?
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
We are doing awesome. And I will give you a short intro, although a lot of Hokie fans that are of a certain age will remember the name and maybe even remember your son, Kyle, who played for Virginia Tech.
Right. Absolutely.
But you were an FWAA All-American back in 1991. One of our highest draft picks ever. You went number 13 overall to the Patriots. Mm-hmm. You went on to play in the NFL for 8 years, 1992 to 2000. Son Kyle came in, played at Tech with none other than Sons of Saturday's founder Billy Ray Mitchell for a few years. Right. They shared a locker room. And then you went on and you did your coaching thing in the NFL after your playing career. You were with Andy Reid with the Eagles, my Philadelphia Eagles, my team in the NFL. Then you stay with Andy. You go over to Kansas City. Right. When Dougie P gets hired, you come back to Philadelphia. And you've been doing your own thing for a couple of years, maybe developing players, getting guys ready for the draft. And now this year you're with Delaware State. Delaware State Hornets down in Dover. You are their offensive line coach.
That's right.
Before we get to the team, like, how did this come about? How did you end up at Delaware State? Why was this the opportunity that you chose?
Well, it's crazy. I was developing college linemen, getting ready for the draft, for the combine and whatnot. And DeSean calls me out of the blue. Coach Jackson calls me out of the blue. And he tells me, hey, I got the Delaware State head job. I'm like, where exactly is that, DeSean? Because it really, you know of University of Delaware, but you really don't hear too much about Delaware State. So, we have that little banter back and forth. And I was like, I'll let you know. Give me a couple of weeks, DeSean. I got to think about it. I'm down in sunny Florida. I'm in South Florida. I have flip-flops on. I got shorts. It's January. I'm not thinking too much about Delaware right now. So he kept pressing. I mean, if you ever get a chance to meet DeSean, he's got that personality. He's got that electric personality. He kept pressing, and then, and I thought about it. I was like, you know what? He needs help. He's got a team that's gone 1-11 the past 2 years, and they obviously need help. And he bought. He was the first thing he told me is, look, it starts with the trenches. It starts in the trenches. I need a guy that can develop these guys to get them going in the right direction. So, I agreed. I showed up at beginning of March. It was probably about 23 degrees. Stepped off the plane with flip-flops, and I'm like, oh, my goodness gracious, what did I get myself into? But you know what? I can tell you this. It has been the most fun coaching football in a long time, just with Coach Jackson, the energy he brings and the staff that he's assembled around him has been fantastic.
Delaware State, it's an HBCU. Mm-hmm. It's not had the most rich football history. And so that's – when you, like you said, people know about UD. UD just moved up to FBS, but Delaware State's been struggling for a long time. Yeah. DeSean Jackson gets that call, but he's never coached before.
That's right.
And now you guys have the connection from being in the locker room at Philadelphia together. Yeah. Like, you must have had some innate trust in DeSean to take that opportunity, because this is a big risk for you, changing up all the things that you have going on down in Florida.
Oh, sure. And after talking to him about it and really, his vision and his goals for this team, I threw my hat in. I was like, you know what, I'm all in, DeSean, because wherever he's gone, he's a winner. Wherever I've gone and coached, I've won. So you get that, that combination together. I mean, between DeSean and I, our NFL experience is 35 years between the two of us. Now you throw in Clinton Portis, who has 9-10 years of experience, and you throw in our tight ends coach, who has 5-6 years experience. So all of a sudden you're like, wow, our offensive coordinator, he spent 2 years in the league also with the Cleveland Browns. So you start looking at it. I think our staff together, defensive side and offensive side, I think we have like 60, 65 years of NFL experience. So we know what it looks like, and we know what it's supposed to look like. And that was probably the big struggle we had in the very beginning, was changing the culture and the mindset of these kids that have gone, 2-22 in 2 years, for them to buy into what we were doing. And I tell you, there were some growing pains, but we got it done. But,
you say that, but it doesn't seem like it with the success you've had. Now we'll hold the thought on that, because I'm so curious what it's like to work under head coach DeSean Jackson, because most people know DeSean as the flashy player that he was in the NFL for the Eagles and the Redskins, running along the end zone instead of going in and backflipping and all this stuff. Yeah. What's it like working for him?
I tell you, it has been an amazing ride. I was coaching with the Eagles when he was there, when he was a player, and I witnessed all that, the miracle in the Meadowlands, making sure he's getting into meetings and getting into making sure I'm getting him to the game. But I tell you what, it's that attitude and the competitive nature of him hasn't changed one bit. I would say it's even notched up even more. So if anyone that knows DeSean, he's a competitor. He wants to win, and that's all he's ever done is win in his life. Ever since a young age, you look at his backstory of him growing up. And I think it's ever since he was like 6 years old, he's told us that he's played nothing but football. So DeSean the player is completely different than DeSean the coach. DeSean the coach is absolutely amazing. The way he leads, the way he commands, the kids, the students, and the administration too. He brings a certain swagger to that university that they haven't seen before, which they have never seen before. I mean, we just played a game in Lincoln Financial where we've had almost 50,000 people, and it was
against Michael Vick.
Two guys that I coached at the same time. Imagine that roster right there. So it was absolutely amazing for these kids because that's an experience none of them will, the majority of them will not have, playing in an NFL stadium. And the Eagles did it absolutely right. They decked the whole stadium out in DSU colors, painted the field DSU. It was our home game, and just really treated them right. But going to work every day and seeing him rolling up, he's rolling up in his, his Cadillac, an e-car, and it's just blaring music, and here comes his entourage and everything. He brings a swagger that's just, it's so cool. It's almost surreal to actually see it.
And when I was watching the Morgan State game, which was 2 weeks ago, he's got like 3 chains on. He's got the same swag and presence that he did as a player, like as a coach on the sideline, chains flopping as he's like pumping the 4th down call.
I tell you, he is intense on that sideline now. I mean, he demands that from all of us, all the time. And that swag that he brings, it's great because this suitcase he brings to the game. So he's got 3, maybe 4 different outfits on game day. When he comes to the stadium, pregame, then the game, it's awesome. So he's sitting there putting it all together with his, what do they call it, the ice and stuff like that. I mean, he's probably got $250,000 on his neck alone. So it's great to see that, especially out of HBCU, that swag that he brings and that swagger. I think kind of DeSean kind of paved the way with that and gave the blueprint for everybody. But it's just great to see that. But then at the same time, he commands the respect from his team, the refs, and the opposing team also.
Yeah, I think that's part of the success that you've seen with Deion Sanders, first at Jackson State and now at Colorado, is there is an authenticity to it. Like, he's not trying to be somebody else he is. Like, Deion Sanders is trying to be Deion Sanders. And what we've seen early in the career of DeSean Jackson and also of Michael Vick at Norfolk State down here the road is an authenticity to how they're approaching this. And that really is kind of the recipe for success. Did you expect the team and the program to, you talked about growing pains, and the record's pretty good for having growing pains so far. Did you expect it to be able to work in September and October, or did you say, man, we got a lot of work to do?
I saw it, probably at the end of August. I saw it all coming together now. When I first showed up, it was spring ball, and I had 7 linemen. I had 7 offensive linemen, and I'm looking at my roster going, oh my goodness, what did I get myself into? Which 3 could play, but I still have those 7 linemen on my roster, and all of them, my starting right guard right now is maybe 220 pounds. And everyone, oh yeah. I always ask them, hey, have you eaten today? Like, we need to, put some. Put some I mean, it's amazing. So because of injury and everything, he was one that was kind of on his way out. But I was like, this kid's a fighter. I want him. Give him to me. Let me develop him. Let him grow. And sure enough, he's growing. He's that little scrappy kid that, you have to hold back. And he goes in and gets it. Even all the defensive coaches, and they tell me after every game, I don't see how you do what you do with the success that we're having with those guys. But it's part of the process. It's, it's next man up mentality. And you train them the way you would train a starter. And that's what's, I think, lacking in college football off, because once you lose a starter, you see the huge drop off in talent and production. So that's kind of one of the things I hang my hat on as a coach.
From what I can tell, and you talked a little bit about the staff and their NFL experience, but there's a lot of young guys in the staff. And I'm not saying that you're an old man, but by comparison, there's just there's a lot less experience on this staff as compared to what you've done in your career. You're the vet in the room. That's really your role. What's that dynamic been like for you?
Oh, it's great. They lean on me quite a bit. They come in and they ask, is this, do you think this is good? Should we be doing this? Should we be doing more of this, less than this? So there's a balance there, with that, especially with the first year head coach, second year coaching football. He's always reaching out. He leans on his staff tremendously, which I think is the recipe for success. A lot of times these coaches come, it's my way, only my way, and we're doing it my way, and it doesn't work. He leans on us for advice and guidance, just from the older coaches, which I am an older coach. Thanks for bringing that up. I feel real good about myself right now.
Oddly enough, that leaning on your assistants, that's something that Coach Frank Beamer always emphasized. He always talked about, like, I'm nothing without my assistants.
Right.
I need them. And it was never like Frank's way or the highway. It was always, let's work on this together. And let's talk about this team that you got now, because they are 8-3. They stay unbeaten in conference play with the win over Howard on Saturday. And now you have a chance to not only win the MEAC championship, but earn a berth to the Celebration Bowl. You're playing South Carolina State this weekend. And you said about the previous record, the last 2 seasons, this team won 1 game each season.
Yeah.
And prior to that, like, this is the first season with more than 7 wins since the magical 2007 season. And very few people probably remember that. I'm a native Delawarean. Like, I remember that year for DSU and them playing UD and how that game hadn't happened in forever and how great it was. And to do what you guys have done for this program that's been really so down for so long in year 1, it's shocking. It really is shocking. And so, like Sam asked you how you got it together so quickly, but like, it's a lot of it is thanks to what you're doing. The offensive line and run game coordinator, which I believe is your full title.
Yes.
You have the #1 rushing attack in FCS in both yards per carry and yards per game. How did you do that?
It all comes down to fundamentals. It always, that saying, I don't fear a man that practices 10,000 kicks one time, the man that practices 1 kick 10,000 times. If you see my individual drills during practice, we're doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. We're doing it so much that guys get bored with it because now it becomes second nature. So that's kind of like the secret sauce there when it comes to that. And then, we add in a few wrinkles, keep the defense honest. The thing with college football, and this is what blew my mind, when I first started watching film, I looked at defenses like, what's wrong with this defense? It's really lopsided. Well, the hashes are that much wider. And so that's something I really had to get used to. But then with the hashes being wider, the defense has to cheat the field. So it's easy. It's like, I always say, guys, this is going to be like shooting fish in a barrel.
That's so funny.
So but it's just developing those guys. And I mean, it's the things we run aren't it's no secret what we're doing. It's just the way we surface our departure angles, things that I did in the NFL.
You must be seeing a lot from Coach Portis too. And you guys must work together a fair amount, being the running backs coach and the offensive line coach. Like Clinton Portis, so for the listeners that aren't aware, great running back for Washington, is the running backs coach on this team. More than one celebrity former player on this team. What's Clinton like as a coach?
He's great. Every coaching staff needs a Clinton Portis. You know what I mean? So he gets it. He commands his room. He gets those players playing right and fundamentally right. And he matches up to what I teach, ideology wise. But the comic relief we get from him when things start getting tight, I mean, he just comes out of nowhere with these one-liners and it breaks the ice. I tell you, it's great having him on staff. I mean, it's been great getting to know him and just really see his coaching mind, because this is his first year coaching football also on this level or any type of organized sport like this. And he's doing a fantastic job also.
When you're positioned, right, obviously offensive line coach, but for the listeners out there, you also have run game coordinator. Mm-hmm. We know offensive coordinator and, potentially play caller with that offensive coordinator position. What does it mean to be a run game, and or pass game coordinator as a coach? And what do you do maybe on game days that just a normal run-of-the-mill offensive line coach might not do?
Yeah, right. So the tag run game coordinator, I have to make sure that everything matches up with our play, our action passes, along with the coordinator. So we're not just running plays, run plays. It has to match all the formations we do. That's all a part of coordinating that. When it's just one person alone, I think a lot of it gets lost in translation. And that's the great thing about our offensive coordinator, Nemo Washington. We sit there and we talk and we're like, this is great. Let's run this because this matches up with this formation. We'll have 4 or 5 more plays out of this. Where I think a lot of times where you just have a coordinator and a line coach, it becomes very apparent and transparent on what you're doing. It's like, oh, this is a run because they never run this formation here. So we make sure everything matches up. So if we have a pass play, we have a run play out of it. When we have a run play, we have 2 or 3 passes out of it also. So defenses can't really dial in on what we do. And then during the game, I mean, halftime's like the Wall Street, floor. I mean, we're going and we're drawing things, making sure they all line up. Our tablets are down there. And this school is not used to the way we coach. So, we demanded, halftime tablets in the locker room. We need, all these things where we can make our adjustments and come and, just come up with a whole new strategy, second half.
You must like coaching at the college level, like the way you were talking about the hash marks and maybe some of the mental advantages you have coming from the NFL. Do you enjoy being back on the college level?
Well, this is the first time I've ever coached. Really,
well, since you played, you haven't been back.
Yeah, exactly right. At first, it was just a little bit of a learning curve behind that, but I am enjoying it. And what I'm enjoying the most is developing these kids. I'm developing these young players and the men also. Just giving them my wisdom, my experience, because so many kids come into my office, close the door, coach, I need some advice. Coach, I need some advice. So that's been probably the most rewarding part of it. Yes, winning, of course, everyone wants to win, but developing these kids into young men and getting them ready. I mean, we probably have 3 or 4 on our roster right now that could play in the league. They just fell through the cracks in high school. Didn't have the grades, but they came here, other places filled up. So you see that talent rise. And when you see that, that's rewarding.
Do you have any kind of aspirations beyond the season? Are you living in the moment? Do you want to get back to the NFL? Like, what's your mindset there?
So right now it's this game, really. I mean, there's things in the talks, there's people calling, there's, I'm getting all this stuff. I mean, GMs, personnel people say, hey, when are you coming back? When do you want to come back? We can, because they see the body of work. Once you see the body of work, and all of a sudden there was hardly any scouts here at all. Then all of a sudden there's scouts here every week, every day. Then you start, then word starts getting around. So, but right now my mind is to help these kids out this week, win this game, and then go to the Celebration Bowl.
South Carolina State.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Go 1-0 this week.
That's right.
And that's been our motto all season. Let's go 1-0.
Can I ask? I want to ask one more thing, Sam, before we move to some tech stuff, because I want to talk a little bit about the tech days. But you're connected to some of the biggest names in the sport between Andy Reid and the Kelsey brothers, right? Like the two teams that the Kelseys played for. You're, I had a picture of you with Jason, like teaching technique, and with Jeff Stoutland with the Super Bowl trophy, which thank you for winning Super Bowl 52 with those guys, by the way. One of the best nights and weekends and years of my life, being a lifelong Eagles fan. But they even mentioned you on their New Heights podcast. I retweeted the clip like about a month back. The Bull Don't Care. Yeah. What's the deal with the Bull Don't Care phrase?
So that's a great, because so many people are asking me about that now. So there was on the Pro Bull Riders tour, there was a bull. His name was Bodacious. He was so dangerous. If you could ride him for 8 seconds, you won $1 million. So the last rider that rode him had every bone in his face broken, shattered. So they're like, this bull is too dangerous. We're retiring him. So my point was, look, this bull was the greatest athlete that ever lived. Whether he had a sore hamstring, a broken hoof, the sniffles, a CTE, whatever. When those lights came on, he was messing somebody up, and he did not care the circumstances. It could be the parking lot. He was messing someone up. So I keep reiterating that. He's like, dude, it doesn't matter where we're playing. We can play in the link. We can play in our parking lot. The bull doesn't care. Let's go make that block. Let's go make that play. And,
Jason Kelsey absolutely lived by that. He would always talk about how he basically just didn't acknowledge pain because he wasn't the biggest guy. I mean, he played center, which is not always your biggest offensive lineman, but like even for centers, he wasn't that big.
Yeah.
And he just played through so much injury. You'd see him with the full elbow gear. And he just said, I don't acknowledge it. And I guess that came back to maybe some of your coaching, and the Bull don't care what's going on. You just go out there and you play.
Oh, yeah, it's fantastic. The guy had complete disregard for his body. When I remember when he was coming out, I was evaluating him as a center. I had him. Okay, so there was another episode on their podcast where he said he should be in the second round. I had him ranked as a second center that year behind Pouncey. Now, as far as the draft, I don't know where centers go. I have no idea where centers go. But if you watched his film, I say, this guy's got some shit in his neck. Excuse my language. Is this kid?
You can curse.
We're good. Okay. Don't tell me that because I'll go off. But long story short, you look at it, for however many 13, 14 years later, the proof was in the pudding because you watched him play. He played like a man possessed every play, even in practice. It was amazing what this guy would do. He'd come out and you could tell he was hurting. But as soon, and he had that boat. He had that bull don't care. As soon as it was time to practice, it was on. And he didn't care. He was going to fight you. He did whatever it took for him to be the best player out there.
There was a game late in his career in the playoffs. We played the Giants, and they had Dexter Lawrence, who is a massive inside presence for the Giants. And Kelsey's 35, something like that. Yeah. And he whipped Lawrence's ass the entire day, and we crushed them. And but that's just beside the point. Let's move to some Tech questions. I know people want to talk about more
Eagles wins. Come on, let's
take it back to the 90s. I know we got to do it because you were one of Frank's first guys, right, Sam?
Yeah.
I was.
That's kind of crazy. Yeah. First recruiting class, and one of the. I'll start with that too. A new coach coming into a school. You're from the DMV, Maryland area. Some guy comes in from Murray State, is going to be a coach at Virginia Tech, and wants you to come down to Blacksburg. What were your initial thoughts about Coach Beamer, about the Virginia Tech program? Because that was prior. Many people forget this and think about the mid 90s teams as setting the foundation. There was a whole group of teams before that set the foundation for the foundation.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What was it like? What sold you on Frank Beamer?
So this is a great story. First of all, Bud Foster recruited me. Everyone knows Bud Foster.
He must have been very young at the time.
He was 24 years old. I remember walking into the weight room where my head coach was, and I'm like, "Man, you're young." He's like, "Yeah, I'm 24." So he told me about Coach Beamer and everything, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll come down for a visit." So it's interesting. Let's rewind however many years that was ago.
Are you in Oakton High School?
In my head, it was so long ago.
Yeah,
1986, 87. So Wake Forest was recruiting me. NC State was recruiting me. There were a bunch of other schools, and that year, all of them got fired. Right after the season,
every coach got fired.
It was basically every coach that was interested, like Wake Forest, NC State. Bobby Ross, who was Bobby Ross? He was at Maryland. He got fired. So it was one Dooley got fired. I'm like, what is going on here? And back then it wasn't like it is today. You sent your VHS tape in or whatever, and you got a questionnaire in the mail, and then you're waiting for a phone call. So Coach Foster comes in, so he tells me let's take a visit to Virginia Tech. Absolutely loved it. Blacksburg in January, beautiful place.
Those drill field walks. Don't remind us. Come on now.
Absolutely loved it. Loved people. Loved Coach Beamer. Loved Mike Gentry. Loved all that. So it came down to UNC and Virginia Tech. And I remember talking to Mac Brown, him saying, you should feel honored that we're offering you a scholarship. And I was like, I am. We had Lawrence Taylor. We had Michael Jordan just left here. Telling me that I should feel honored that they're even considering me. I'm sitting in Coach Beamer's office, and he said, Eugene, we'd be honored if you came and played for Virginia Tech. Done.
It was the reverse.
Yeah. They were honored. I should feel honored. It was done. So that was it right there. And that was sold. Done.
And back then, to get to Tech, even when I started at Tech, the 460 bypass wasn't done. There used to be a phrase all dirt roads lead to Virginia Tech. And at least you were in the state, right? Weren't you Oakton?
Northern Virginia.
Yeah. So, but still, that's a 4-hour drive, some dirt roads maybe to get there. That was an interesting choice at the time. And I don't know what your recruiting status was, and everything changes, but to be in that, it was his first recruiting class, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And they got a late start on the recruiting process on that. So it was interesting, and guys really weren't working out because they didn't have a strength coach yet. Everything was brand new. So they were scrambling on that, because I remember Syracuse was one of my choices too, with Dick McPherson. And I remember going up there with on my visit, and there was 20 feet of snow on the ground and you couldn't see. I was like, oh, there's no way in the hell I'm coming here. So no, but it was crazy. And then literally probably 2 weeks after National Signing Day, Tech got put on probation. People don't remember that.
Oh yeah.
We got put on probation. I'm like, wow. And I mean, it's amazing. And a lot of people don't know they stripped us of our shoe contracts, all this stuff. I mean, it was a mess, but we were offered a chance to transfer without penalty because of that. And I was like, no, I'm staying here.
Do you still keep in touch with any of the guys from back in the Tech days?
Yeah, I do. A handful of players I played with, a few of the coaches. I reached out to Coach Foster today. I talk to Coach Beamer probably about twice a year. Just on some advice. I mean, and the greatest thing is I'll call him, he'll pick up the phone. Hey, Eugene, what's going on? How you doing, Coach? You can call me Frank. Okay, Coach. You will always be Coach to me. It doesn't matter. So
that's the sign of a good coach, I feel like.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to add our friend that works with us on Saturday, Coach Holmes, to the screen. He is a 5th generation Hokie and a big fan of everything Virginia Tech. We've got Coach Chung here. We've got Coach Holmes here. And I wanted to ask Eugene, and while we have Mike here too, we hired a new coach today for Virginia Tech. And being in Philly for so long, I would have to imagine you had a little bit of experience or knowledge of Coach Franklin over the years and stuff. Do you have any kind of reaction to it, Coach? Are you kind of like in your own bubble down at DSU? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was a necessary hire, I think, absolutely. I remember coaching some Penn State guys, they're always talking high accolades about the guy. So, hopefully he can come in and turn this thing around. I know I think it's an uphill battle for him, but I think with his pedigree that he brings in and his experience and just owning Pennsylvania recruiting wise, I think that's going to be a big help.
Yeah. Yeah. Mike, your initial thoughts on Coach Franklin, and if you have any questions for Coach Chung as we're kind of chopping it up here. And Coach, Coach Chung, I don't want to keep you for any longer than you have, but if you don't mind just hanging out, you're welcome to hang out for a bit.
I just want to know how he did that backdrop here. I'm not the most tech savvy.
Yeah, Mike's got the nice Burris Hall behind him and everything.
My Airbnb behind me,
Well, first off, Coach Chung, big fan of everything you did while you were at Virginia Tech. Big fan of everything you're doing now. As a O-line coach myself, I love everything that y'all are doing.
Yeah, thank you.
But honestly, we are officially, and again, everything has to play out, obviously, but it gives the impression that right now Virginia Tech is in big boy football territory. It is something that ever since Coach Beamer has left, there's been kind of a void there. And no offense to Coach Fuente, no offense to Coach Pry, but now we are in a mode now where we can be a player in the grand scheme of modern day landscape college football at the P4 level. So it is something that has been needed, for lack of a better term, as far as Virginia Tech is concerned, but it's also something that I think is going to reinvigorate the fan base. It's going to reinvigorate not just the big donors, but also the little donors. So where we can get to the point where it's kind of like Clemson, where they have their IPTAY program. Everybody, gives a little bit every year, where we can get more of those. And those things, it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you have 35,000 kids at a school and then everybody can donate at least $25 a year, that stuff piles up.
Sure.
And every single dollar adds to the success of the program.
Sure.
And that type of internal motivation and external motivation is just going to keep bringing recruits in. It's going to keep bringing attention. More importantly, I think the high school coaches that Coach Franklin has had a relationship with for the last 20 years, going back to his stints at Maryland when he was offensive coordinator, and then going in North Carolina. I had the pleasure of working with a guy named Danny O'Brien, who was at East Forsyth High School, who ended up going to Maryland and following Coach Franklin up there under Ralph Friedgen, ended up going to Wisconsin after he left to go to Vandy. But, that type of relationship in our general footprint is just going to make such a huge change in what we can do and the kids that we can pull.
Yeah, it's going to be huge. I have a question kind of for both of you guys, as both Coach Chung and Coach Holmes, about something that Virginia Tech, I feel like, was a staple under Brent Pry and maybe some other coaches, especially along the offensive line, was guys switching positions either mid-year or in between years. You'd have a guy go from guard to tackle, and then 1 week he's back at tackle, and one week he's at left guard and 1 week he's at right guard. Coach Holmes has done a great job, I think, educating our audience on the difficulties of that, whether it's down to what you're looking at pre-snap to your footwork. It's not just hit the guy in front of you all the time, right? There's a lot of intricacies to those positions.
Yeah.
How important is it to get a guy and make them a master of that footwork, that technique, that pre-snap? Obviously, you're going to have to move guys around. You only have so many offensive linemen on the roster. But talk to that importance, and is it something that is a sign of a good offensive line coach when you can have guys in their position?
Oh, no, absolutely, 100%. Just to get, let's say, just a tackle, a pure tackle, to get his, footwork and just the muscles that are trained, it's a completely different skill set than a guard or left tackle to right tackle. It's a completely different skill set. And all the ancillary muscles that are involved, training that and developing that, you have to be almost like a master of that, and just knowing the genetics and the physiology of how the body moves. And then to interchange guys, mid-season, that's a tall order right there. That's a heavy lift. So to be able to do that in the time constraints that you have, in college football, I mean, that is a tall order. So to be able to, but a good offensive line coach will always cross-train his guys. You have your starting five, then you have your backups, and the backups have to know every position. That's my case right now. I mean, oh my gosh, I haven't had a healthy offensive line all year. Like I said before, you
got a 220-pound tackle,
right guard. I mean, and it's crazy.
Run some wing T, coach.
Oh yeah, I know. I just cut every play. No, but it's mastering that skill set and teaching that to the offensive line to be functional and to be serviceable. That's a tall order in itself. But then to be successful on top of that as a player and as a coach, it takes a lot of time, effort, and patience to get that going. So any offensive line coach knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's different skill sets as you move down the line. People think, oh, well, he plays guard, he can go out to tackle. It's like, man, it's not that easy. Yeah, he can finish a game for you, but to be a master at it, it's completely different.
It's something that's going to be extremely important with the staff, and something that maybe Coach Pride never got right was offensive line. And we had the unfortunate thing of Coach Rudolph leaving us quickly and then trying to fill that with Ron Crokin.
Yeah.
But one thing that Bill O'Brien dealt with at Penn State and then Franklin had to fix was offensive line play. Christian Hackenberg got his butt served to him because they couldn't get the offensive line right. And we saw it happen down at Florida State with the things they had going on after Fisher and before that. So we need to get offensive line right. Yes. And I don't know that there's any quick way to do that, especially, but nowadays, Coach Chung, I would imagine it can be easier than ever in terms of grabbing guys from the portal, but there's a cost that comes with that.
Sure. There is, this whole college landscape now with the NILs and the open transfer portal. It's the wild west. Even though you're getting somebody that might be a better athlete, you still have to coach them. It's not just plug and play. And that's where being a good offensive line coach comes in handy, having somebody that can develop guys, even though, the way I look at the portal is, I'm getting someone else's, not trash, but low-hanging fruit. He doesn't want to be there for a reason. He wants to get in the portal and try to go somewhere else. And that's the kind of problem I have right now with college football. Just because something's not going your way, let me go find a place that wants me and I can play right away without going through the rigors, the trials and tribulations, and the heartache of becoming that player. So, it's not so much the NCAA, but it's whatever these colleges have agreed upon. Let's open up the portal, free trade, it's free agency every offseason. And that makes it difficult. That synergy that you have to have within the offensive line makes it difficult, especially when the bigger schools come in and dangle these carrots in front of the guys.
Would you say that building an offensive line at the college level is what's the most important part about that? Relationships with certain high school that breed them better or coach them better? Is it finding a certain body type that works that you think or know as the offensive line coach is going to translate to the next level? How does that kind of play out? And obviously it's not a one size fits all answer, but I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
It's a little bit of everything. It's building the relationship with the coaches in that area, because you might not know every coach, but this coach knows this coach that has a player that, that can play, that it's been overlooked because he has a star stud on his team. It's building those relationships, one, in recruiting, I'm learning this firsthand. It's building those relationships because they'll be the ones that first call you first. That will call you first, like, hey, I got a guy here that might fit your needs, and then it's evaluating. It's being able to evaluate a guy just from the film. They send all these highlights and everything. I mean, if I sent my highlights and I made all pro every year, but it's going and actually evaluating and seeing what they can do if they have bend, if they have range, if they, if they're flexible, if they can recover from awkward positions. I think that's a lot where, these coaches who just get huddle highlights don't see that or don't know how to recognize that. And digging, peeling the layers of the onion back when you go on the visits, things like that. Simple flexibility test, tells you a lot on an athletic ability of somebody, and and see what kind of grit they have. That way. I mean, it's not rocket science by any means, but there is some knowledge that has to go behind it to develop an offensive line and to build an offensive line. Just because you're grabbing guys from Auburn and Georgia and stuff doesn't mean your offensive line will be successful.
Yeah. Well, and to piggyback on that, Coach, I know from the high school side, whenever we would get our linemen to, we would find, of course, all their pancakes, and every time they pull and kick out a guy, if they were on the upfield shoulder, that's what we wanted to see. But again, we would also want to make sure we drill footwork, everything else. If you're a jack of all trades, go back to your previous question that Sam asked, you're a master of none. And so, some guys are really good in the middle, really good centers. Some guys are good at pulling, you want those guys at your guards. I was a wing T coach. That's, that was, and so we always wanted guards that were a little bit quicker. But we were also angle blocking. We weren't necessarily going big on big the whole time. But in modern college football, with a lot of the zone schemes and everything else, you don't really see a whole lot of gap. I mean, occasionally people will mix in gap, but most of your run schemes are going to be inside and outside zone. And so it's all about footwork. How quick can you get upfield? How quick can you get your hands? How quick can you turn shoulders? Things like that. And so it's having to piecemeal a line, as Coach can probably attest to as well. Having to piecemeal one together on the fly is always difficult, because sometimes you're putting a guy, even if it's a backup, you're saying, okay, this guy has the best feet. I may need to put him at guard if I'm running a lot of inside zone, if that's my emphasis. If I'm running a lot of duo, if I'm on run, things like that. So I just want to it's just so crucial to make sure that everything is right. But getting into the recruiting part of it, again, it's all about making sure that some of Tech's best offensive linemen in the most recent years have been converted. Dwayne Brown was a converted tight end. Wyatt Teller was a D tackle. The guys that have had a lot longevity in the NFL.
That is interesting. Some of the conversions that have been made. I mean, one of the best offensive linemen ever, Jason Peters, wasn't he a conversion? Like
he was a tight end.
Yeah, right.
He was a 320-pound tight end. Yeah, so that was feet right there. Yeah, absolutely.
If you had really good feet and really good hips, but you may not have the overall top speed to be a tight end, that's a tough conversation. This is a good spot for you.
Is there a guy who, when you're teaching your offensive lineman Tech, hey, this is what it looks like. This is what the perfect pull block looks like. This is what the perfect pass pro from the left tackle looks like. Whose film do you turn on? Who do you point to as like, this is the guy?
So Jason Peters, and then Lane Johnson, and then Jordan Mailata also. So now those guys right there on the outside.
I like those guys.
Yeah.
Three of my favorite guys. I was so sad to see the thing about the Liz Frank with Lane Johnson. He is a tactician, and he's got those long arms, and he's just had such a great career.
And he was a quarterback in junior college. So
I've heard that.
Yeah. So I remember going to work him out in Oklahoma, because we had the first pick that year. In Kansas City, we went and worked him out. And I was like, out of all my interviews and everything, he was my favorite. He was just absolutely my favorite. Laid back, but you could tell the wheels were turning. He does everything to be the best. That's his bar. He's like, I want to be the best that this game's ever played. So, but when I show film to the guys, I show them Lane, I show them Jason Peters, Trent Williams. You know, his footwork is phenomenal. Along with his hands and feet work independently of each other, and that's another training thing I do also, because a lot of linemen, when they punch, everything freezes. You know, I have drills and fundamental work that teaches these guys how to use their feet and hands independently of each other. But those guys right there, and then Jordan, I mean, that's enough. And then center work, you know, when my 220-pound guard says I'm too small, I pop on Jason Kelsey's film. I was like, you're too small. Okay, this guy's too small. Now this guy's too small right here. Watch this. And it sparks them up. It gives them like, oh my gosh, okay, I can do what he does. That's you're teaching me, and you're coaching me the way you coach them. So it's having that as an advantage, because I have like some merit and some backing behind it. Like, I know what I'm talking about. I'm not some fly-by-night O-line coach, but you know, it's just that being able to show them that on a fly, and then you know, them actually meeting them. You know, when we went up to the link, it was great. It was fun.
That's cool. And some of your connections too. You might be able to pull some of those relationships at times to give you an edge, maybe in a recruiting battle, or a little bit of advice here or there. Does that ever happen?
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, it does. One of the kids from one of the recruits from Philadelphia, you know, he's wavering between, I don't even know what school he wants to waver to. That's why they're trash. But he's like, yeah, Coach, I heard the Kelseys talking about you on their podcast. I was like, well, that's cool. That's great. Yeah, I coach both of them, believe it or not. And two opposite ends of the spectrum, those two guys. Travis is like a screwball, you know,
yes.
And then, you know, Jason is, you know, well, he's kind of screwy, but
they're both screwy, but Travis is
but
really goofy.
Like,
yeah.
You know, you would never think that they're from the same gene pool. I mean, it's unbelievable to me.
Cleveland Heights, baby.
Can I,
Northeast Ohio kids are crazy.
Yeah, Sam went to high school in Ohio, I think, for a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you ever? Oh shoot, I had something else. Oh, this is what it was. HBCU.
Mm-hmm.
You were the first Korean player ever drafted to the NFL. So you see where I'm going here?
I know where you're going. Go spit it out.
How does that dynamic work? Because are you the only non-African American member of the staff?
No. We have our token hires on there also.
Okay.
So we have a volunteer. We got two volunteers that are not, you know, that are white, you know, but then there's me, you know what I mean? So the greatest thing is, so I actually had to recruit this past spring, and you know, I went down to South Florida, you know, where I live, and I go in and I tell them, yeah, I'm at Delaware State, and they're like, isn't that an HBCU school? I'm like, oh yeah, it's HBCU, but I'm offering a white quarterback. You know, here's this Asian coach, you know, at an HBCU offering a white quarterback. I'm like,
that's great.
You can't make this up. I mean,
I used to hear, because you know, growing up in Delaware, it's like, oh, you could go to DSU. Like I could have gone. There's 5%. I think it's 5% of the student population is white or non-African American.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't, you know, a primary choice, but it was a possibility. And I've been to DSU. I've toured it. I've had a few events there. It's a nice little campus right in the heart of Dover. Yeah. And we wish you a ton of luck next week. Do you have any, or this weekend, I should say, do you have anything you'd like to plug before we let you go? Like where the people can find you on Twitter? I don't know if you're an avid tweeter or Instagrammer, or I know you do your development stuff, but maybe that's on the back burner right now.
Yeah, right. I do develop. X3 Performance down in Fort Myers is where I do all my college combine prep work, and I am on Instagram. Don't ask me my handle. It's my son set it up for me. I think it's the Eugene Chung.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's the
something like that. So, no, but it's. I mean, it's cool. There's so many things that's going on right now. It's with the school. We had First Take with Stephen A. It's called First Take. Yeah, First Take with Stephen A. It was on campus. Then we play at the link, and Good Morning America comes over, and you know, and coaches are doing these things with ESPN, and it's been a fantastic ride, you know, and it's been great fun. Plug wise, I'm like, what are you actually talking about? You guys, I'm in a different generation than you guys.
Well, I'll tell you, if people haven't watched, you can check out, you know, Delaware State games or watch them, because I watched the game against Norfolk State here, and it's really awesome football and just general FCS football. Right. If you don't watch it, it is super high level football.
Yeah.
Like you don't really notice any sort of drop off. There's a ton of talent. The coaching is really inventive. You see a lot of really cool stuff.
Oh yeah.
So give it some time and watch it.
Yeah.
And like Pete has said multiple times, like what you guys have done this year it's such a testament to the effort put in. It's mind boggling.
It's historic. Like it really is historic. The things you're doing, DSU 8-win season already. They can do more. And I'm not jinxing anything, but like they can do more. This is the first 8+ win season since 2007. Yeah. It's been a good while. It's been like 18 years. So this is really impressive stuff. Thank you so much for being here, Coach. Like we really appreciate taking the time out of your night here.
No, you guys are welcome. It's great. And I'm glad. I love what you guys are doing, for Hokie sports and all that. And that's fantastic. So I'm glad to see this. And, I pay attention more now. So I'm like on my phone a little more watching you guys, believe it or not. So you guys have a fan over here in Delaware. So
thank you.
Hey, well, maybe
go ahead.
Maybe if we make an O-line coach hire, we can tap in and see what you think about it.
There you go.
And give Kyle our best as well. We always appreciate what he did for
Yes.
Hokie Nation. All those starts he did at right tackle, and
oh my gosh.
he had a lot of stuff going on in his career. So we appreciate what he did for us as well.
Thank you guys.
All right, have a good night.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Take care.
Coach.
Bye, Coach.